Because of this war in the Ukraine, Germany has now decided to remilitarize, as Bloomberg is reporting here, that Germany is to boost military spending. It says Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced plans for a massive boost in defense spending in the latest historic policy shift in Germany, triggered by Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. When Russia invaded the Ukraine and NATO started to shift its troops to its eastern flank, everyone noticed, the New York Times is reporting that everyone has noticed that there was one weak link in NATO, and that was Germany, due to decades of underfunding their military and NATO. Everyone noticed there was this one weak link, and that was Germany. And because of this, Germany has now abandoned its policy of not supplying weapons, and now it's going to boost its military spending. As it says here, on Saturday, he abandoned Germany's traditional rejection of supplying weapons to conflict zones. The willingness to supply Ukraine with military equipment, including surface-to-air missiles and anti-tank weapons, is in many ways the most dramatic move. It says Europe's biggest economy may finally be ready to punch its weight in the international arena, discarding decades of reluctance linked to its role in the 20th century's bloodiest conflict. And Ukraine's ambassador to Germany said that this was truly an historic moment. It says here by the New York Times that the threat perception in Germany changed overnight due to the invasion of the Ukraine. It says here the commander of the 1,600-strong battle group in Lithuania says, "We felt safe in the middle of the continent, surrounded by friends. Now we have a full-spectrum war in Europe, and we are concerned, especially since we don't know how far the escalation spiral will turn." And then it talks about Chancellor Olaf and his announcement that I just read to you. And it says here, Scholz says it's clear that we must invest more in the security of our country in order to protect our freedom and democracy. Then at the end of this article, it says all of this would have been unthinkable 4 weeks ago. It was historic. In this article, it says here that Germany is thinking about reviving the draft to beef up the military. It says here that Germany's military has been struggling through a long period of secular decline, but there's concern that the Russian invasion of the Ukraine could prompt the Germans to revive the draft, which the country scrapped back in 2011. So because of this war in the Ukraine, all of a sudden, Germany is now concerned about their military. They're concerned about their safety, and now they're starting to fund their military, fund NATO, and scrapping their old World War II, post-World War II foreign policy and getting into conflict zones. So here we see Germany starting to rearm, remilitarize. Now we here at the Church of God for decades now, me and people before me, and there's other ministries out there as well, have been saying for decades now that you will see a rearmed, remilitarized Germany that will head a 10-nation combine, possibly called a United States of Europe. And of course, that is called the beast of biblical prophecy. Now, where do we find Germany in the end-time prophecies? We find that Germany is end-time Assyria. And if you order our booklet, Germany in Prophecy, we will prove that to you, that Germany and Austria are the end-time Assyrians, and we find Assyria in the end-time prophecies. Here's just one prophecy in Isaiah, the 11th chapter, verse 11. This is the prophecy of the second coming of Jesus Christ, and it says here in verse 11, "It shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people that shall be left from Assyria." That is end-time Germany. The Israelites will be slaves and captives in Assyria, but also in Egypt, Pathros, Cush, and Elam. And those, of course, are the miry clay nations that you find in Daniel, the 2nd chapter. We see the iron mixed with miry clay. The iron is, of course, Europe, led by Germany, and they shall mix themselves with the miry clay, which is Egypt, the North African, Black African nation. So here we see Assyria in the end time, and we also see Assyria in the end time remilitarized. As it says here in Isaiah, the 10th chapter, verse 5, it says, "O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, the staff in their hand is mine indignation. I will send him against an hypocritical nation," that's Israel, and against the people of my wrath, to give him charge, to take the spoil, to take the prey, and to tread them down like mire in the streets. And then God says in verse 12, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria, and the glory of his high looks, because he says, my strength of my hand, I have done it. By my wisdom, I am prudent. I have removed the boundaries of the people, and have robbed their treasures, and have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man. And then God says here that he will take the riches of the people, and I have gathered all of the earth. This is the Assyrian speaking. So here we see a rearmed, remilitarized Germany with and this Assyrian has a prideful heart. He's full of pride, full of ambition, schemes of conquest, and he is going to accomplish it. But then God says that he will punish that Assyrian. And then it says here in verse 24, O my people that dwellest in Zion, do not be afraid of the Assyrian. He shall smite thee with a rod. He shall lift up his staff against thee after the manner of Egypt. Israel's going into slavery and captivity. And then it says here that it shall come to pass, verse 27, in that day that his burden shall be taken away from off your shoulder, and his yoke from off your neck. So Israel is going to be in slavery and captivity by the rearmed, remilitarized Assyrian, which is Germany today. Get that free booklet, Germany in Prophecy, free of charge, off our website, britishisrael.ca.